Hey guys, welcome back. Today what we're going to be doing is showing you how to move your steering box forward. If you're at home thinking, should I stretch my Jeep using moving the steering box forward, this is the video for you. We're going to show you step by step how to get it done, all the tools you'll need, and how to do it just from home. So let's get started. Okay, so before you get started removing anything having to do with the steering box, what you want to do is make sure that your steering wheel has the wheels pointed straight forward. After that, what you want to make sure is that you have a ratchet strap or maybe a bungee cord, but something that can secure the steering wheel in the position you've left it so that it can't manipulate either left or right while you're doing things under the hood. You need to make some reference marks here, so I'm going to use a paint pen to mark right here to here. And that second mark, it goes right along here. Just to be on the safe side, before I remove the bolt up here, I'm going to take a picture of what it looks like with my reference marks. After you've made your reference points at both the top and the bottom, go ahead and remove this lower bolt from the intermediate shaft that goes into the steering box. I've got a 13mm socket, and I'm going to go ahead and remove it. We're going to go ahead and remove the entire intermediate shaft.
I have to drive this.
And this is the intermediate shaft. Not mine, but the intermediate shaft. What I did here is I marked T for top, and I'm going to just put a B down here for bottom, just to make sure I know where it goes. Even though I took the pictures and I have these reference marks, it's just one extra step to make sure I don't forget.
Removing the power steering lines is next. Use an 18mm wrench and have a drip pan on standby to catch any fluid.
Now that I have the two power steering lines undone from the steering box, I'm going to go ahead and get these 4 bolts taken off. This is, I'm using an 18mm socket to do that. I'm going to remove the last bolt here. Make sure as you're removing it, you hold on to the steering box itself so it doesn't fall down. You just need to brace it. It's stuck on the bolt.
Sure wish I could help you.
Damn, that's heavy. We did it. So what I've got here is the material that we're going to be using to create the new sleeves for after we've moved the steering box forward. It's 1/8 inch wall with a 1 inch outer diameter, and you can see it's exactly the same material as what is here for the existing sleeves. Before I can do that though, I need to grind these current sleeves down flush with the frame, and to do that I'm going to use a flap disc. You can also use a cutting wheel or a grinding wheel. I'm using the flap disc because I suck at grinding and I don't want to gouge the metal on the frame. I just want it nice and flush. So we're going to go ahead and get started. So I've finished grinding down one of the sleeves, but I thought I would take a second to show you how to measure how far the sleeves extend from the frame. I have a combination square here. What you do is you take the square and you put it flush to the sleeve, and then you make sure that the ruler is pressed into the frame, and then you want to go ahead and lock it down. And then you can just double check it against all of the other ones, making sure again that the square is flush against the sleeve. And it looks to be about 3/8 of an inch. So in preparation for putting the steering box back in and figuring out just where we need to put it up here, I went ahead and took out the coolant reservoir, and I marked a spot where I noticed that the steering box would be hitting it right here on this black line, and it's just this part here of the steering box that is hitting it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use a heat gun, and I'm going to mold this so that it can accommodate the steering box. Additionally, what we have to do here is we're going to have to go up and cut these plastic tabs out. You can see that it's part of the shroud here, and then this tab and this tab. This one here is going to have to come back at least a ½ an inch, maybe a little bit more. Next, we're going to be taking a minute to mark where the new bolt holes are going to go. So the first step is you're going to go draw a line between both of the holes from the centermost point of the hole across. And you're going to do that on the top and the bottom. Okay, so the plan is to move the box, or move this rearmost hole forward about exactly halfway between the edge to edge of these holes. So what we're gonna do is this measurement here is 3.5 inches, which divided by 2 center would put us at 1.75 inches in between each. So in order to figure out where the forward bolt hole needs to go, the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just draw a circle around my measured spot there, and then I'm going to take a quick measurement to get the center to center measurement between each of these, which is just about 4 1/8. So I'm going to take 4 1/8 and place it at my marking here, and then I'm going to go to the end of my little ruler and mark that, and again up top 4 1/8 and forward, and mark that. Go ahead and just circle that so I can find it. And there we have measured exactly where we need both of our bolt holes. So now that I have it all marked out, I'm going to go ahead and punch it and then get ready to start drilling.
Since Skyly's at work and I'm at home doing nothing, I'd figure I'd give her a hand to keep her project going. I'm going to go over some specifics to include hole dimensions and how the sleeve looks in the stock format. So let's go over the sleeve here. Okay, so this is a side view of your frame, how it looks before you modify anything. All right, you have a hole on the outside of the frame, on the outboard side. It is a 1-inch hole, and it is just enough to slide the sleeve in there, and the sleeve butts up to the inside of the frame, and it sits there. All right, then this bolt, all right, this bolt is a metric bolt, size 12, or it's a little bit smaller than a 1/2 inch hole there, right? It slides in there like this. I know there's shadows here. And it goes through the back side, all right? Now the back hole here, it is 5/8 wide, obviously all the way around. Now, we could have just get away with using a 1/2 inch drill bit, but I wanted to leave it exactly how it is in the stock form, right? So, and that also gives us a little bit of wiggle room just in case we drill our holes and it's a little bit off square. So I have a 1-inch hole saw, a 5/8 hole saw, and some pilot bits that are 1/4 inch, and a unit bit just in case I need it. All right, so let's get started. All right, so I'm going to be starting with the 1/4 inch drill bit here. And for those of you that are asking yourself, well, Edgar, why don't you just start with your 1-inch hole saw, since you're going to make a 1-inch hole in there, right? And I mean, for those of you that aren't too familiar with hole saws here, if you do start your pilot bit or pilot hole with a 1/4 inch bit that comes with it, chances are that when you go through, you're going to slam the hole saw forward. It's going to catch, break some teeth, and twist your wrist a little bit. So just to be on the safe side, just grab yourself a 1/4 inch drill bit, or if you just want to use the stock one, the one that comes with the hole saw, just remove it, drill all your holes, and then put the sucker back on there. You'll thank me later. Okay, what I'm going to try doing here is drill a square hole right through. It's the same 1/4 inch size here that goes through the back side of the frame here, right?
I drilled all 8 holes before using the hole saw, so I can use those first 4 holes as a guide to drill the ones in the back.
So I switched to a corded drill. The cordless drill kind of just dies out pretty quick, and I'm using my chain grips here because I couldn't find the handle for the drill. So let's go. Oh, a quick tip to getting the little slugs out of here: just take the whole saw off, and then suckers fall right out. Instead of you trying to fish it out with a screwdriver, it gets aggravating. Yeah, look at that. All right. So the beautiful thing about this hole saw that I have here is that it fits all the way through to the other hole. Some hole saws the actual arbor is going to be too wide to go ahead and make your hole. So just something to think about when you're purchasing these tools. We're going to be cutting the sleeves at about 3 inches each.
Next, I ground down the 2 plastic tabs using a 3-inch pneumatic cutoff tool. I ground them down as close as possible, trying to stay away from the plastic radiator housing. And here's how it looks after I ground down both tabs. The last thing that needs some clearance is the coolant reservoir. I use a heat gun to warm up the plastic and a BFH to push in the plastic, creating that clearance. Inserting the sleeves and bolting up the steering box is definitely easier using 2 people, so that's what we did.
Okay, so we've got it all bolted up. Now, it's really important that you remember when you are tightening these bolts and you have someone hopefully helping you hold the steering box, what you're looking for is that the bolts are in line with that original line that you made. If you find that they're not in line, you have to adjust the steering box one way or the other, either forward and tilt it up or tilt it back a little, again, to line it up with that marker line. Alright, so we have the steering box in, and for me, I thought it was going to be easier to put the reservoir in after we put the steering box in, since it's so heavy. We didn't have anything obstructing it. So now I'm going to go ahead and put this in. Alright, it's in. Alright, on the right hand side, just below where I'm pointing, you can see that we've got clearance now between the reservoir and the steering box, because we went ahead and molded that reservoir just a little bit, and it's actually just the right amount of clearance that we needed. Okay, so Edgar is just about ready to go ahead and weld the sleeves onto the frame. While he's getting all that stuff put together, I'm going to make a quick template for what will be a reinforcing plate that we're going to weld to the frame. We're doing that because we've cut things off of the frame that were originally there. We've cut 4 extra holes in the frame that weren't originally there, and we really thought it would be better safe than sorry to just go ahead and reinforce the whole thing.
Originally, we were going to show you guys step by step on how Kylie made the reinforcement plate, but we wanted to make the video as short as possible. Plus, some people may not want to add a reinforcement plate. So, here's a few clips of it fast forward. Since I ran out of shielding gas to MIG weld, and I left the stinger to stick weld at my buddy's house, I decided, hey, I'll just TIG weld because welding is welding.
So the last step in moving the steering box forward is lengthening the intermediate shaft. I did all the cutting ahead of time, so I'm just going to walk you through what all I did in order to get ready to weld. So this is the stock intermediate shaft. Before I cut anything, I made sure to mark off some reference points. When you do this, make sure you mark all the way from end to end, because after you cut it, you're going to want to clean it off, so you just don't want to lose your markings. I've also marked 1 inch on both sides of the cuts, because that's how far we're going to go into our tubing. This tubing here is 3.5 inches long, and like I said, we're going to go in 1 inch on each side. That will extend the intermediate shaft 1.5 inches. Now, before you cut anything, especially with this intermediate shaft, you want to make sure that it's fully extended before you cut, because if it's not, there's a good chance that you could cut these splines. So you just really want to be sure that you've extended it as far out as possible to avoid cutting them. All right, so let's get welding.
After a quick trip to Airgas, we were back to MIG welding.
Done with the welding, nothing too crazy, especially if you clamp it up just like I did. It's pretty much a flat weld.
All right, so it's done. What we did is we just quickly mocked it up there just to make sure it fit, and it was everything we wanted it to be. It's clearing and all of that good stuff. I'm gonna take it off here in a little bit and paint it and all that. But we really wanted to make sure that we hit every step in this video for you guys. So thanks for sticking around with us as we went step by step for moving the steering box forward and everything that goes along with it. I hope that you continue to watch as this build goes forward, and thanks for being here.